You know, if I keep saying I miss how things used to be in the knife community about 10 to 15 years ago, I really will have transformed into that angry old man yelling at the cloud. But it's hard. It is hard not to miss those days of the knife collecting community. I mean, not only do I feel like we had a tighter sense of community back then, but I feel like companies had a better sense of distinction and immediate brand recognition. Okay, what do I mean by that? If I tell you this knife is a zero tolerance, modern day knife collectors or folks who've only been into the hobby for a few years think, oh yeah, that's a high end Kershaw, because that's what zero tolerance has functionally become these days, is high end Kershaws. But if you were to tell somebody, 10, 15 years ago, oh yeah, I bought a zero tolerance, the immediate thought would be, whoa, those things are overbuilt, heavy duty, serious knives. Because that's what zero tolerance used to be. With the 100, 200, and 300 line, that was the 0 100, 0 200, 0 300s, they were all of a very similar design, this kind of organic curvature, Ken onion shape. Some were liner locks like this, some were frame locks. The 1, 2, and 300 lines were serious hardcore beater knives. And somehow, out of that entire family lineage from Ken Onion, only the 0350 persists. I gotta tell you, I think that's a bit of a shame. But I think this is still a fantastic knife, and it's persisted for a reason, and that is that this was always the best seller from that lineup. It had the best cost, compared to everything else. It was the most affordable. It's obviously the most pocketable, being a smaller size. Those other ones are freaking huge knives and super heavy. This thing's heavy too, to be honest with you, but they were ridiculously boat anchorish. But they had an immediate recognition to them that was super cool. And zero tolerance stayed that way for a long time before becoming what is essentially just higher end Kershaw knives. But man, it's hard not to miss those days. And I'm glad we at least still have the 0350s around to remind us of that time period. Which, by the way, as you can see, I have two of them here. This one in black wash, this one in stone wash. I don't think they offer either of these finishes anymore. Maybe the black wash they still do. The stone wash I didn't see on the website. But they offer them in coated blades, all sorts of different styles. They're all the same knife, same blade steel, same handle material, more or less. There's different special versions of them, but this is the standard S30V G10 version that you can buy anywhere today. This one is lightly carried, and this one is heavily used and carried. So I've got quite a bit of use on these knives, especially this one, and I'm excited to review them because these knives are very solid, well-made, high-quality American knives. But of course, as a result of that, they come at a higher price point than a lot of what I typically review, which means this video might get 70 views and cap out about there, which is fine. It's all about the data. It's not about the views anyways, but I always find it interesting what you guys stick around for and don't stick around for, what you tune in for and don't tune in for based on cost, okay? But let's talk about these knives in particular. I have waxed prophetic enough. Let's start with the blades. We have a 3.25 inch long recurved drop point, very Ken Onion, and yes, this is a Ken Onion design, S30V blade. Now, S30V steel is so well known that it doesn't even really need an introduction. At one point in time, this was the cream of the crop. It was the premium top of the line blade steel you could get, period. Okay, we're a collaboration between Chris Reeve and Crucible Metals to create the perfect dedicated knife steel. And of course, we've gotten things like S35VN, S45VN, S90V, evolutions of this steel that have come about since. But does that mean that S30V is no longer good enough? Well, that really depends on who you're asking. If you're asking a hardcore steel snob, they'll probably tell you it's the entry level into acceptable steels. What I will tell you is that most of you could probably get away with a 440B or AUS 6 blade, and honestly, you don't need to worry that much about your blade steels. Okay, the average person isn't using their knives very often. What I'll tell you about S30V is it holds a pretty damn good edge. It can be a little bit harder to sharpen compared to things like 440C, AUS 8, 8CR, 13MOV, but it's not difficult to sharpen in my experience. It takes a pretty good edge, and it holds it, like I said, for a pretty good amount of time. I've always been happy with S30V. I think it's more than adequate for your everyday carry cutting tasks. We'll talk about the steel again when we come back to price, but overall, I like the steel and I like the blade shape. Okay, it's a high flat grind. I love the stone washing on this one in particular. Here's that super heavily used black wash. I've never been a big fan of black wash blades. I always thought they were kind of, I don't know, cheap. Not been a big fan of the finish, but if you like it, you know, it's out there. All sorts of coatings. There's all sorts of different blade finishes, but the point is it's a good performer. Okay, this recurve is very aggressive in cutting, especially if you're holding something and doing a pull cut. It makes such light work of whatever material you're going through that you don't have to worry about the job getting done or not getting done. It's going to do the job very, very well. The tip is not the pointiest in the world, if I can get this to focus. It's not the pointiest in the world, as you can see, but it is fine. Comes to a nice sharp tip. It is penetrative. It's reasonably thick. Okay, this will have no problem puncturing right into your clamshells, your bubble mailers. You know, if you're using the tip for cutting, it'll do the job just fine there. It's a functional blade shape. Now, there are downsides to these very broad blades, and that is that if you have a more delicate cutting task, they're not able to get into all the same tight nooks and crannies. Now, this is not the greatest knife to dig your fingernails out with. You can do it, but it's certainly not preferred. Stuff like that. There's pros and cons to every blade shape, but the idea behind having such a wide blade like this is that as you're using it for years and years and years, and you're eventually sharpening that edge backwards, you just have much more blade to work with over time, so your knife will last you a longer period of time. All that said, I like the blades on these. They slice pretty damn well. Again, very aggressive with that recurve. The blade stock is not super, super, super thick, so it is able to go through material quite easily. Honestly, these were always the best slicers of the zero tolerance original 1, 2, and 300 lines because of that blade stock thickness. Very, very satisfying blades. I love these things. The deployment and lockup, these are speed safe assisted. Okay, so you can open it with the thumb studs, which are actually your stop pins, or the flipper. Comes out nice and fast. Here's this one that's been used a lot more. Still comes out super quickly. No problem whatsoever deploying them. Again, not really thumb studs, but kind of thumb studs on our stop pins here. Very traditional step design. A little bit of a collusion from the handle cutout here, but you can still get in there and open it up, no problem. Not the most comfortable studs, but they're not meant to be studs in the first place. So no issues with that. It is a liner lock design. You can see the engagement on this very hard used one. Lightly used one, you can see. It will wear in over time, but the good news is it doesn't wear in so much that you develop a lock rock, because these things are vaults. No play up and down, no play side to side in either one of these zero tolerances. And if you ever did develop any, just tighten the pivot point. Okay, it's very, very doable. So I'm going to say deployment and lockup is fantastic. Centering, you can see on this lighter use one, maybe it's listing a little bit to that left-hand side. It's not perfect. On the black wash one, the one that's been used more heavily, listing just slightly to the right-hand side. Neither one's rubbing. Some folks would probably say these should be perfectly centered, but again, these are not, you know, high-end collectibles. These are medium-priced, hard-use knives. They're not designed to be perfectly centered. They're designed to have the hell beat out of them and keep on taking it. By the way, in the pivot point, I forgot to mention, it is phosphor bronze washers, which you can maybe see through those holes. Probably. Yeah, you can see a little bit there. Phosphor bronze washer system. The handles are made out of G10. This one, the one that's newer, very, very high texture G10, and it will be high textured for a long time. Obviously, as time goes on, you'll wear that out, and it's going to be smooth as a baby's bottom before too long. It's just the nature of these fine textured G10s. Pocket time is going to wear that away. Accumulation of dirt and grime is going to wear that away, and just erode, you know, it's going to erode. You're going to eventually wear that texture off. But as it comes to you out of box, it's a quite aggressive G10. The handle, 4.6 inches long, plenty of room to hold onto the knife. That said, I'm wearing medium size. I wear medium size gloves. I have medium size hands. I have plenty of room. If you wear large size gloves, you may end up running out of room on these things, but they are very ergonomic in the hand. I don't have any hot spots. I don't have any issues. Jimping top side works extremely well. Okay. Wish we had some jimping on the flipper, admittedly. The flipper works, but it would be nice to have a little something up there. We also have jimping on the bottom here. I guess if you're holding it in the reverse grip, I'm not really sure what the function is, but it does work. These are heavy knives, okay? Heavy knives. Let's break out the drug dealer scale, as I always call it. Keep in mind, 3¼ inch blade. And the weight, once the scale decides to respond, 6.3 ounces. Okay, 6.2 to 6.3 ounces. That is not nothing. That is a significant weight. It is a boat anchor for its size. But a lot of people who love the zero tolerance knives will love that about them. They'll say that it gives them a very high quality, heavy duty feel. And they're all about it. If you talk to the old school ZT fans, yeah, they absolutely love the weight. And I feel like people have moved away from the super lightweight focused mindset that everyone was in for a while there with the bug out. I don't mind the weight. It is hefty. You do notice it. If you wear thinner fabric pants, if you're walking around in slacks, yeah, this is going to drag your pocket down quite a bit. If you're wearing jeans, you're not going to notice it. Speaking of which, pocket clip, same one we've seen on a lot of Kershaw and zero tolerance knives, famously used on the Skyline for a long time. Okay, very simple. I forget which number they used to assign this in their catalog. This one here, very, very, very tight. Okay, very strong. You can see flares up a little bit on the end, not too much. Good accommodation for thicker pants. This one has been used, carried, and bent out, and I've had to rebend it. Tension on it is weaker. Zero Tolerance did send me a replacement clip, but I left this one on here for the review. Okay, just to show that, yeah, it can wear out over time. It can bend. Just bend it back. You'll be fine. I could bend it and put more tension on it again, but the good news is the replacement clip was free of charge. So you don't even really have to bother. Kershaw / Zero Tolerance, they have great customer service. One thing about the pocket clip you may not love, I'll bring in the old cutlery lever pocket, is how they carry. There is quite a bit exposed from the pocket, okay? And so there is the risk of the knife coming out of your pocket, getting lost. That is something that you have to worry about. Admittedly, when you go tip down with the knife, because it can be positioned to all four corners, if you go tip down, you'll have significantly less knife exposed from the pocket, about that much. So maybe tip down is the way you want to carry your 0350. Personally, I don't mind it. As heavy as this thing is, I would notice it the moment it was popping out of my pocket, so I'm not too worried about losing it. Okay, I mentioned the liner lock already. Very thick steel liners, non-skeletonized, which is what contributes to that very high weight. Let's see if I can get a light over here. Okay, can you see in there? Non-skeletonized stainless steel liners. It is quite heavy. That being said, I don't mind it. I really, really don't. Price point is where things could potentially become an issue, because these sell on Blade HQ for about $188 new. That's a hefty price tag. 188 bucks. It is American made. It is all American made. A very well made knife, a very hard use knife. Again, this one's had the hell thrashed out of it and it keeps on taking it. But the question becomes, do we have to spend that much money to get a very well-made knife with a great blade steel? And the answer is no. I'm only going to show two competitive options, but they'll both illustrate the point here. And this is the point that comes with the argument of American versus overseas production. Here's a Taiwanese-produced cold steel American Lawman. Okay, S35 VN steel, G10 handles. It's about the same texture level as on the Zero Tolerance. Triad lock, so yeah, that's the Zero Tolerance is a hard-use knife. This American Lawman is a much harder to use knife. This triad lock is never going to fail, whereas you can get that liner lock to fail. So super heavy duty, very comfortable in the hand. Arguably equal or better blade steel. Depends on your preference between S30V versus S35VN. Better wear resistance, slightly better edge holding capability. It's honestly a wash as far as I'm concerned. But here's what's not. 188 retail, about 130 retail for the Lawman. And you can get these as low as about 75 bucks sometimes, brand new on sale. Taiwanese production. Is it as well made as the Zero Tolerance? I'm sorry to tell you guys this, the US only guys, but yes, it is. This knife is absolutely every bit as well made as that knife. And as far as hard use goes, it'll outperform it. Now, the other competitive option is going to be one from China, and that is the OK Knives. I've reviewed this already before. Okay. OK Knives, OK229. Show you the model number there. Oh, sorry, that's the serial number. Anyways, M390 blade steel. Yes, confirmed M390. Carbon fiber handles, compression lock, great action, great ergonomics, superior performance. This OK knife does hold a better edge than that zero tolerance. Yes, when I was testing the M390 on this, one of my zero tolerance 0350s was the S30V sample I was comparing it against when trying to figure out where it ranked in edge holding. These about $80 and go on sale as little as $45. Now, the M390 isn't treated as well as it could be. You can get M390 harder than this and better edge holding than this, but at its current treatment, it outperformed that. Okay, do you see the problem here? I'm not saying don't buy the zero tolerance. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm saying if we get down to the objective, pound for pound, dollar for dollar argument, it's understandable why many people argue that American knives are potentially overpriced relative to what you can get in terms of materials and build quality from overseas, because these knives are amazing in their fit and finish. They do rival this, genuinely. In terms of performance, they even outperform it in many ways. But to the person who wants to buy US only, who takes pride in owning US only items, carrying US only knives, none of that's going to matter. You're getting incredible performance out of the zero tolerance. You're getting it for an affordable price relative to its country of origin and materials used, once you consider labor costs and everything. It's going to be very satisfying to those who love it, and that's what I'll say about it. Is the 0350 worth it? It comes down to personal preference. If you want an American-made knife, then hell yes. Hell yes. Absolutely all day long. If you're just looking for the best performance for your money, well, I feel like I covered that pretty well as it is. So I'll let you guys argue about it in the comment section down below.